Good morning. We would like to feature Qualcomm 125-2012. Qualcomm will be reporting their quarterly earnings on what date? Well, I can tell you it's going to be right along SanDisk and Qualcomm. SanDisk is going to report today after the close, but with Qualcomm, I believe it's going to be February 1. Here. And let's take a look. Yes, February 1, 2012, 4:45 p.m. MMTs. The nice thing about it is that the next earnings release, uh, the actual number in the last quarter, that the actual number was 80 cents, and the estimate was 78. And a year ago, prior to that, back in the days there, we had 68 pennies. So there's already been a gradual incremental build out in Qualcomm as far as what Qualcomm's next generational chips will be. Okay? And that when you take a look quarter over quarter, they've done okay. Qualcomm was a high flyer in the 1999s. Was way up here, split many times, and that's a little history about it. The main thing we would like to know is, does Qualcomm benefit from Apple? Just like SanDisk. Why would SanDisk benefit? So these are the things that we're going to be watching, MMGs. Okay. Um, Another thing that I would like to point out today, that there is a stock called Human Genome Sciences called HGSI. The February 11 calls are seeing interest with shrink in the underlying stock, along with others, ILMM peers. And so once again, that's that update. But back to the Qualcomm breakout, it's at all-time highs on a monthly level. Now, the growth pattern in Qualcomm and its next generational chipset would be the key factor, MMTs, and that it would. And where would that new growth come in, and why? And why would you want to be part of that growth? That's the most important element of it all, I must say. So we are going to look at the multi-level, what that growth would look like, and how could Qualcomm take out this major monthly level. It's a monthly Qualcomm chart. But most importantly is when I go to the tool here and I go to the zoom tool, you're going to see right here that in the last couple of years from 2008 highs, here's a 2009, but here's a 2010, but here, that was your ultimate 2011 high right here on a monthly level. Look at how many months you broke out. So people must have been buying over there at that time frame when they believed everything that I'm talking about, MMT. And what is that? That would be the Qualcomm story. And what is good about the Qualcomm story is how much of Apple's build out's going to go to Qualcomm. Okay? Now, believe it or not, Qualcomm baseband to every iPhone 4S and believe the incremental 7.9 MLN iPhone 4S shipments could be very meaningful, and they will. And unlike SanDisk, that's going to report earnings after the close, is SNDK and Qualcomm. You know, they're both going to be suppliers there, right? Now, having said that, what would the high-end multi-mode WCDMA PA to the iPhone 4S? That would be that Qualcomm chip, okay? And that's a high-end multi-mode WCDMA-PA to the iPhone 4S. Okay? So there are other ones that are also, it's an old story, but it's been one that we've always talked about. When would that growth, and as the internet changes, and as smartphones and the supply and demand, where does Qualcomm fit in that? And where does SanDisk? You know, you can have more than one winner as far as growth goes. And what about where is ADI and NXPI? They use the memory interface and logic content in the Macs, iPads, and whatnot. NXPI is a symbol, and ADI, which had a earnings last quarter, but they're names that we're going to want to look at, and they're very important. And so ABGO, ADI, NXPI, but Qualcomm, is Qualcomm going to become the leader? And as long as Apple continues to build more and the smartphone build out and everything that we're just in the, well, we're in the phases of it now. However, where would that lead us in the top line growth pattern? And why Qualcomm could break a multi-year calendar 211 high, and it's going to approach that resistance level. Another thing that would behoove us is to look at where the support levels are going to be. The 10-month moving average right here is at 55. So we would look at buying the $55 puts. If we could get these down around, 25 or 30 cents, we would be able to apply that, and we would be balanced, and we'd have a little bit of risk in there, covering the upside risk, which would be a call contract that goes out to April, and that's in April 60, right here on a monthly level. I'll even show it to you. Watch. Here it is. Let's see if they got any monthly prints. Sure do. This is what it looks like. Been up here at $4. Okay. Been over here at 3. Some months ago, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 5, you got 6 months. They went to the high here. They're down here. So they're right here in this range on a monthly level. And that range is going to be for the calendar month of January, or 11/1, the last good reading I had. I was just looking there. But I needed to see what your true ranges are right now. The open of the month was $1.69. The high was $2.52. The low of the month of this calendar month of the contract of an April 60 was $1.33. Prior to that was $1.05, and then you had $1.12 monthly lows in there. Those are the last 90 days, including 1/1/2012. So you got 11/1 that month. The low was $1.12. On 12/1 throughout the calendar month on 2011, they were $1.05. 240 was on the high. So the contracts do have upside to them, providing that it is a lower risk level of entry, because if you buy Qualcomm shares outright, you're going to have a lot more risk. So when you're trading something like Qualcomm, QCOM, and you have 500 shares, you almost have $30,000 at risk. Okay? But on the other hand, you can still participate with Qualcomm by having call contracts down here at $1.50. If you have 5 of those, that's less than $1,000. Okay? And you can still participate with the lower dollar cost risk strategy versus owning the shares outright. Yes, that is your downside, and that's all you could lose. Okay? And to the upside, when you travel above 60, the earnings are there. It's up 34 cents on the day. So it's got to be a growth story. And Qualcomm has, like any other company, had to write down the problems where they buy their supplies from, even in the tech sector, that is. So, does Qualcomm regain a growth pattern in leadership in 2012 based on its new chips and things like that that would be hitting the market, their new product line? You can find more about that by going to qualcomm.com. There, you can look at investor relations. You can also look at various different earnings reports and things that they've gone through. That's one way of doing your homework and your due diligence, as everyone is taught to do so. Major strategies on Qualcomm, both understanding the calls and where they're at on a monthly level going into the earnings, and not only that, but more importantly is knowing that right here on the daily, you're at daily, you know, you're right there here on this daily, and it's stretched right up there, and that's just testing these resistance levels like it always does. It got through these tops over here, right here, these these tops back in 2011. See, now you're making these higher highs in 2012, along with the broader bull rally that appears to be in play. The thing that we're going to look at MMT in the short term is going to the trend tool and then draw on that horizontal trend line so you can see where these tops are over here. And you can see that this is going to be another resistance level. This resistance level here was taken out in the last 2 days. This was a major one right in here because that's where the downtrend really started. And this part of it right here is also the top of this bar over here that was on 720 of 2011. Okay. And you're above that, this area right here. So yeah, everything does have pullbacks and whatnot. So we're going to take a look at where the lower end of this gap started, right about in here. And then we're going to make sure that we fill that in. Okay. And then there's your range. Bam. There's your last reversals. No longer. We took those out in the last 48 hours. And we set it up this week, and you made the higher high into the resistance lines. Now I'm going to draw a support line right there for you so that you can see that bottom up process. But how do I take out that resistance is it's going to take a good economic earnings report and how they have turned that business model and what has led up to it and why would revenue growth increase